Is it the real MVP though? Hello, welcome back to the channel of nonsense. What does 8.5 grand get you in 2022? Not an awful lot, to be honest, but it does get you the new Triumph Tiger Sport 660. What a segue. I've got one. This is my first ride on it. I've literally ridden it 3 miles from my house to the muddy lay-by of filth where I start all my car videos, and yeah, in those 3 miles I can tell you already that Triumph has, rather annoyingly, done it again. They've produced what I think is going to be a corking entry-level adventure bike. But anyway, let's go for a quick squiz on it. Squiz? Jizz? Raz? Don't really know. What am I talking about? And we'll find out, oh, that's slippery, why this could be the best entry-level bike of the year, and why entry-level might be selling it short a bit, because obviously this is powered by the Triumph Trident's 660cc. Is it actually 660cc? I can't remember. I think it actually is. 3-cylinder engine, which is a smooth, creamy thing full of Muller yogurty loveliness, as we know from when I rode the Trident, God, a year and a bit ago. And they just put it basically unchanged into an upright sports tour adventure bike chassis, the Triumph Tiger Sport 660. 80 horsepower, it weighs, I can't remember, 216 kilos, something like that. No, can't be that much. I'll put the weight up here. And it costs £8,450, which is not very much money in today's market. And obviously we can wang on all we like about how inflation has changed bike prices. I think when I bought my first bike, which was a Street Triple 675, the engine of this is loosely based on that. My Street Triple had a 20 horsepower more than this. That cost about 5.5 grand, I think. But when you adjust for inflation from 2009, it's the same price as a current Street Triple, so things haven't actually really got more expensive. Anyway, you didn't come here to hear about that. You came to hear my first impressions of this bike, and as I've said, they are good. Right, some caveats. There are some bits initially which, when you come from a Tiger 900, which costs about 4 grand more than this, the screen is like the Trident. You get half of it is like a monochrome bit, and there's a little colour bit at the bottom. But hey, look at that gear indicator. It's also got, would you believe it, a fuel range 167 miles from a tank. I think that'll go up as I ride it. But yeah, it's got heated grips, this one as well. It does not seem to lack anything, and like the Trident, on which I wouldn't be able to see if there's hedges, but because this is an adventure bike I can, it's got proper tyres on it, like the Trident. So yeah, it's got Michelin Road 5. They're not Pirate Road anymore, they're just Road 5, which, if you've not ridden, are a really good do it all wet weather, cold weather, warm weather, hooning, just mincing about, good all-round tyre for the UK, where usually it is a bit like this, muddy, a bit damp, a bit wet. There's a badger over there, he might run in the road. They're very good in terms of traction on badgers. Don't run over badgers. So yeah, Triumph, again, like the Triumph, has spent the money where it matters in terms of giving everyone confidence. Entire department. Now, I am going to get some twisty roads in there and see if this lives up to the sport bit of its name, but this is not a full review. This is just my first impressions. I'll be doing a full review video probably next week, so yeah, stay tuned for that, where I'll do all the facts, figures, sexy close-up detail shots, and walk around, and I'll take it for, well, I would have done more miles on it. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But yeah, I'm going to stop waffling, nice daffodils, and get some twisty roads, and I'm on my lunch break. See how much fun I can have on an 8.5 grand bike on my lunch break, and see how much I wish I was on my much more expensive, twice the price KTM. Let's go. Right, already I can tell you that this does feel sporty. It has a sense of agility to it, and a real sense of grip from those tyres. And actually the front end feels really quite connected with something that looks a bit like an adventure bike. And I guess we need to talk a little bit about the fact that this is not an adventure bike in the truest sense of the word at all. It hasn't got any off-roady pretensions in terms of wheel sizes, electronics, tyres, yada yada. But I kind of like bikes like this because they're almost like the modern day sports tours, aren't they? And people used to buy things like Sprint ST 1050s, and I know you can still buy a Z1000 SX and that kind of stuff. People kind of moved to upright bikes with a road bias, a bit like my KTM 1290 Super Adventure S. I know it's an adventure bike, but I've got the road biased version. So anyway, that's kind of what this is. And my initial impression really of this bike, having just done a few miles off camera, just boring dual carriageway, is that this, like the Trident, if you come from a more expensive bikes, you will notice some cheap bits, like some of the plastics. The screen is a bit basic, even though it is nice in its basicness. The riding experience still feels posh, it still feels premium, and that 3-cylinder engine's got a huge amount to do with that, because it is so smooth. I think, obviously, coming from my big lumpy KTM, I think riding a Camel through a landmine field would also feel comfortable in comparison, but this does feel very, very smooth. And there's little things like the indicator switch. Coming from my KTM, it's nice to use one that just blooming works. And you've got these buttons here to go up and down through the menus. There aren't loads of menus, it's not going to baffle you, but it has got all the information you would need, like a fuel gauge, like a range readout, like a gear position readout. All that kind of stuff is there. It's got digital speedo. It's just dead easy to read, and you don't have to go through menus to turn the heated grips on like on my KTM. I don't know why I'm comparing it to a 16 grand bike, but yeah, it's nice to just have a simple button like off of Honda's right there. And there are 2 riding modes. There's a little mode button down here that is road and rain. I think that's your lot, yeah. So dead simple really. It's just designed to be approachable, but I do think even if you've ridden bikes lots, you can have some fun on this. And once I'm out behind this lorry, we will do some fun, or try and do some fun. We've got 4th gear, loads of torque. Oh, that was like quarter throttle, and we just oozed past that lorry. Yeah, that was creamy. Absolutely no drama, no bother, and confidence is the main thing. Yeah, it's nice just knowing you're on good tyres as well. Obviously, I'm getting a lot of feel through the chassis, which kind of gave me the news in my brain that I could go around there. Right, let's go down my fun road. I came down here earlier doing a little car review, and a car that told you its 0 to 60 time as you did it, so you could actually try and beat the car's official 0 to 60 time, and it did. It was a Mercedes GLE 63, and it did it in 3.5 seconds, which is stupid, because it weighs 2 tons. But anyway, let's drop it down 2nd gear. Let's start 20 miles an hour, go up to 50. Let's go full throttle, and that's 50. Yeah, it's not slow, this bike. And when I first rode this engine in the Trident, it was on the press launch in Tenerife, and I think Triumph cocked up ever so slightly just because we rode up a massive mountain that was like a couple of thousand feet above sea level, I think, and the power noticeably dropped off. When you've only got 80 horsepower to start with, you don't want to lose power. But yeah, now we're in the UK, this feels like it has got really all the shove you really need. Also, you have to click down for overtakes if you're used to riding a litre bike, but it isn't a limp-wristed, weird, wet fish of a bike or an engine. And it makes a nice noise too. It's got that triple growl. You hear the engine more than the exhaust because Euro 5. I'm going to put that screen down because actually it's quite noisy when it's up for me. I am 6'3", so most adventure bike screens do annoy me. But down it's alright, the wind is just kind of on my chest rather than buffeting my head. Alright, there's a few corners up here, let's have a giggle. Third gear, out of that corner, had the traction control light flashing. It is mediumly warm, I guess. It's not cold, it's not above 10 degrees, and the tyres are quite new. But yeah, Christ. I think you'd be kidding yourself if you wanted more power than this for 8.5 grand. It is such a sophisticated package as well, with all of these bells and whistles. I'm going to turn around to that road again because I haven't really got time to go much further afield because, like I said, I'm on my lunch break. I don't want to get sacked for being a dick. Need to turn the electronics off if I want to do any silliness, I think. The heated grips work really well. I've got them on the hottest setting. They're 3 3-position heated grips. I was a bit hot into there, but it didn't flap when I lifted off slightly, broad corner. Feel like you get your toe sliders down on this, but actually the pegs aren't as low as you'd think. So yeah, I'd be surprised if you got to the stage you're scraping pegs on this, even if you're quite an advanced Nigel of the motorcycling world. Yeah, I just love how flickable it is. It doesn't really have any nasty turning traits. These tyres have got a really nice even profile on them, so it's not like some bikes where you push the handlebars and suddenly it's like you've fallen off the edge of the world. That can be quite unsettling, especially if you're a reasonably new rider. Hello. And yeah, this doesn't. It just rolls really naturally, but quite quickly from side to side, and the suspension is very plush without being all pillowy and nasty. Like if I grab a handful of front brake here, yeah, I got a bit of front ABS there because I did it on some wet, but yeah, that doesn't dive a horrific amount. That feels very supportive for a comfortable suspension unit, which isn't adjustable because again, it's an affordable bike. Yeah, I feel like I'm just being a Triumph marketing mouthpiece now, because they do have a habit of turning out really well sorted bikes. I'm not going to overtake because there's a car coming. Anyway, that was very brief first impressions of the Tiger Sport 660. I've got it for another week or so. Hopefully the weather stays like this so I can get out and put some bigger miles on it and do some proper trips, and that will inform my full in-depth review, which will be out next week if I have time. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this has been helpful if you're looking at one of these. If you are, let me know what you want to find out in the review in the comments, and I'll have a poke around it and try to answer your questions, so long as they're not like, can you fit your penis in the exhaust pipe? And I will see you next time for more Triumph Tiger Sport 660 nonsense on YouTube. Goodbye. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Check out my car channel. I'm awful at plugs. Sorry.